Shadow of the Colossus is one of those timeless masterpieces which proves that simplicity and subtlety in storytelling does not stop it from sparking even more imagination of people. Its minimal use of dialogues and focus on ambiguity in its story allowed many players' minds to run wild with speculations and theories, leaving them with many questions that could never be answered. Enough fantasies and theories about the story of this game. I'm more interested in extracting out something more practical and universal from Shadow of the Colossus. So in this video, instead of trying to solve the story's mysteries or reading into its subjective interpretations, I'm gonna be focusing on its top 5 life lessons that we could all learn from and apply in real life. Before we start, if you like the idea of mixing video games with life lessons and practical psychology, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. From the moment when the protagonist, a young boy named Wanda, entered the Forbidden Lands, there was one quality within him that remains unwavering throughout his long and treacherous journey, and this was his burning desire and obsession to revive and resurrect his lover, named Mono, who was sacrificed by his tribe due to her cursed fate. Wanda did not heed the warning of his tribe leader, Lord Emon, and trespassed into the Forbidden Land as a lone warrior by horseback, betraying his whole tribe with this single-minded and definite goal. Arriving at the center of a massive shrine, he carefully placed Mono's delicate body on top of the altar, gently touching her cold and lifeless face with affection and sorrow. He turned his intense sorrow into the most powerful force and emotion that propelled him towards his goal. When the sinister voice of an evil deity named Dorman echoed from above, through rays of bright light shining from a hole on the ceiling, Wanda showed no sign of fear and requested Dorman to return Mono's soul to her. Dorman stated that it may be possible, but only if all the 16 idols lining the temple's hall were destroyed, and warned Wanda that he could have to pay a deep price. Wanda's burning desire and obsession left his mind with no room for any hesitancy. He eagerly accepted Dorman's offer without pausing to reconsider or procrastinate, and embarked on his quest, determined to slay each Colossus one at a time to achieve his goal of reviving Mono. Just as in life, nothing could steady and focus our minds like a definite goal, a point which we could fix our eyes on. So, if we decide to explore the way to achieving our dreams, just set out and go for it with burning obsession, for what more is there to say? Wanda was a confident and superior archer on his horseback aggro, but he didn't seem to be a very skilled swordsman. His youthful appearance and his rather clumsy way of handling his sword seemed like an amateur warrior at best, but he proved that it was his mentality that truly matters in the end. In the face of every gigantic and formidable Colossus, Wanda kept his stance firm and unswayed. He would do whatever it takes to move forward, to climb up higher and stand above the Colossus. His heart's burning fire of desire crafted an unrelenting courage and iron will. His cause was not to make a name for himself, but it was a selfless act of sacrifice. Once he stepped into the Forbidden Lands, he knew deep down that the ancient land would be his death ground. From now on, there would be no return. Bridges collapsed behind him. The only way for him to be transported back to the shrine was to defeat the next Colossus. He had to fight like hell to achieve his goal or perish. Every time upon the fall of his defeated Colossus, a dark stream of Dorman's evil spirit would slowly possess his soul until he completely loses himself in the end. He was prepared to go beyond himself, to go beyond his own needs, to endure suffering in exchange for the life of his love. Wanda was so determined that his courage and will to sacrifice outwitted even the law of mortality in human nature. In our lives, we might see our comfort and safety net as insurance, as a blessing, but in fact, it is a curse. It defies us. When we think we have options, we rarely focus our efforts deeply enough in one thing. We tend to wander and never quite get what we want. Like Wanda, sometimes we have to sacrifice our comfort and security to burn our bridges, leave ourselves just one option, to succeed or go down. Creating a real sense of desperation will help to push us forward. If we break down the Shadow of the Colossus to its most fundamental level, we could describe the game as 16 boss fights and the traveling between them. However, as simple as the game may seem, I have to say it is so much more than that. For simple things in life are often the most meaningful and profound. During my exploration and journeying within the mythical landscape of the Forbidden Lands, I couldn't help but feel like I was also in the process of meditating and reflecting on my own inner spiritual journey. There were so many signs and nuances in the game that point towards the ideas in Jungian psychology. For example, the numerous in-game appearances of mandalas inside ancient architectures and buildings, and the universal archetypal symbols of the colossi, such as dragons and monsters. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychologist famous for the founding of analytical psychology. He was fascinated by mandalas for many years, and he gradually came to understand that they represent the way in which all paths in the psyche lead eventually to the midpoint, the center of the mandala, which is the core of the self. Note that the map of the Forbidden Lands also resembled the pattern of a mandala, with the temple shrine in the center of the map, the whole of light representing Dorman's consciousness. Wanda's journey constantly revolved around the center, as if his path followed a spiral pattern, moving towards the center of Dorman's self, eventually becoming one with him. According to Jung, the goal of psychological development is the discovery of this unique self. This process is what Jung called individuation, the hero's journey of an individual towards the conscious realization and fulfillment of a person's unique being. In real life, most people never even embark on this journey of individuation because it is easier simply to act out of familiar and conditioned behavior patterns and responses. The lesson we can draw from Wanda is that his courageous and adventurous spirit of embracing his journey into the unknown and having the patience and persistence to fulfill his destiny of a cursed hero. The developers of Shadow of the Colossus were extremely aware of the philosophical principle of the opposites. The main theme of the whole story is the polarity and interactions between light and darkness. All beings in the Forbidden Lands are composed of light and dark energy. The ancient sword of Wanda could shine light into the darkness. Every time he defeats a Colossus, a dark stream of shadow would enter his body, representing the dark side of Dorman. But there is also the light side, represented by the beam of light that shoots up into the sky from the Colossus. The shadow figures in the temple represents the dark side of the Colossus. On the other hand, the remaining light is transformed into doves. In the game, light always overpowers darkness, and Wanda would be absorbed along with the darkness of Dorman into the powerful and transcending beam of light in the end. In the real world that we live in, the dynamic between light and darkness, the Taoist concept of yin and yang, chaos and order, also forms our reality. Famous psychologist Jordan Peterson spoke in one of his TED Talks about redefining the reality of chaos and order. He believes that it is not so much of a metaphysical concept, but it is actually the most real thing that he knows, and knowing it had completely changed his life. He stated that people suffer more than they have to, because we profoundly misunderstood what is real. We fail to realize what's most genuine and important because we are blinded by our perception that the world is made out of objects. Instead, he proposed that the world is made out of chaos and order, and that the quality of our being is dependent on how we manage the balance between the two. Only when chaos and order are balanced, we could detect the deepest sense of meaning in life. In that place, we are secure and confident, but challenged enough to be alert and developing. He concluded that the solution to how to live in reality within the balance between chaos and order is start by watching yourself. Observe yourself as if you are someone you know very little about. See when you are where you should be psychologically, then practice staying there more often incrementally. If you are interested in more details about this idea, please watch the full TED Talk of Jordan Peterson. The link is down below. Shadow of the Colossus tells a mythical story of rituals. Each of the 16 boss fights that defines the height of the game begins with Wanda awakening at the temple. using the light from his sword to guide him to the beast, finding a way to scale up the beast, then slaying the Colossus. This ritual goes on for 16 times, reminding me of the nature of most universal mythologies. Its repetition is also what happens to all myths. They are stories that our cultures tell again and again, passing on to people not even born until centuries later. That's why Shadow of the Colossus is such a timeless game that is still receiving a fair share of attention after 15 years since its release. The mythical story of Wanda's hero's journey also contains a deep metaphorical significance, which I could relate to one of my favorite quotes from Joseph Campbell. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path, and where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a god. Where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought to travel outward, we shall come to the center of our own existence. Wanda's hero path was rather twisted and dark, tasked by evil Dorman to travel outward to 16 different locations and slay all 16 colossi in order to save his loved one from death. When the last Colossus was slain, he would come back to the temple completely corrupted and become one with Dorman, whose center of existence also based in the center of the temple. Wanda's blinding obsession allowed himself to be slain in exchange for the life of his love. In the end, only Lord Aemon had the power to put the beast back into seal, leaving Wanda to be reborn as a baby with horns, showing the insane amount of dark energy that he absorbed could never be undone even in his next life. None of this seems to make any sense, but if we think deeper, it might still be relevant to our lives metaphorically. The biggest enemy of us dwells within ourselves. Carl Jung wrote that every human being carries a dark side. He called it the shadow. He believed that the only way for an individual to reach a healthy and functional psychological state is to come to the center of our being and confront our shadow, channeling its dark but powerful source of energy into slaying the monsters of our unresourceful habits and self-destructive patterns, so that we could be reborn as a new and better version of ourselves. In Jung's subjective view, the hero's journey is always inward rather than outward. Thank you for watching. Wanda's journey was truly legendary and inspiring. I hope you'll find your own desire and courage to confront and defeat your own Colossus in real life. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. This will help my journey of bringing inspirations to more people. See you in the next video.